It's 3 a.m. Your eyes snap open in the dark, your heart is going, and the first thought is always the same. Something is wrong with me. Nothing is wrong with you. The thing that just woke you is older than the light bulb, older than the clock on your nightstand, older than the idea that a night is supposed to be one solid block at all. For thousands of years, the person sitting awake in the dead of night was the most normal person in the room. Tonight, I'll show you the clock you're actually keeping and why your body flatly refuses to stop. So picture that fire. It's burned down to embers on a dark plain, and the whole tribe is asleep around it, curled under animal skins. Except one. One figure sits up in the dark, awake and calm, staring out past the dying coals while everyone else sleeps on. He's keeping the watch, in the gap between two sleeps. That waking was never a malfunction. It was the most ordinary thing a human being could do. And right now, at 3 a.m., staring at your own ceiling in the dark, that figure is you. Start with the chemistry, because your body isn't just allowing this wake, it's scheduling it. Right around 2 to 3 a.m., cortisol, your main alertness hormone, quietly begins to climb, and it keeps rising until it peaks about half an hour after your eyes open. The exact hour you dread is the hour your own bloodstream starts relighting its fire for the day. Nobody asked it to, it does it anyway. The chemistry doesn't stop at heat. It also drags you to your coldest. Your core temperature slides to the lowest point of the entire day at around 4 a.m., 2 or 3 hours before you'd normally get up. So when you surface near 3 a.m., you're climbing up out of the deepest, coldest pit the night has. That bleak, hopeless feeling isn't despair talking. It's a thermometer. The dread you wake into has a temperature. Here's the part nobody tells you. Your night isn't one even sheet of sleep. The deep, heavy, slow-wave sleep all loads into the first half. The back half runs light and shallow. So by 3 or 4 a.m., you're sleeping so thinly that a creaking floorboard, a passing car, a full bladder, any of it is enough to lift you clean out. You weren't dragged awake by some dread inside you. You were floating just under the surface, waiting to be tipped. Right where the sleep goes thinnest, the night saves its loudest dream. REM gets longer with every cycle, so the biggest, most vivid dream you'll have all night lands in those pre-dawn hours. That I woke at 3 a.m. with my heart slamming moment, it isn't a warning siren going off inside you. You simply step straight off the edge of the largest dream your brain built all night. The pounding heart is an exit, not an alarm. No wonder whole cultures decided that hour belonged to something darker. Christians named 3 a.m. the devil's hours, a dark mirror of the 3 p.m. the Gospels give for the death of Christ. Sweden has its Hour of the Wolves, though that name only spread after Bergman's 1968 film, and the claim that the most people die and the most are born in that stretch is folklore, not data. Strip the costume off, though, and what is left underneath is real. For hundreds of years, people genuinely dreaded this exact slot on the clock. The fear of seeing 3 o'clock runs on a script far older than your nerves. But that old dread hides a stranger fact. Almost everyone is up there with you. About 35% of adults wake 3 or more nights a week, and roughly 23% wake up every single night. The thing you quietly file away as your own private 3 a.m. defect is, by the raw numbers, one of the most common human experiences there is. You're not the broken one in the dark, you're the rule. The older you get, the more that dark room fills up. Night waking climbs steadily with age. By 65 and over, around a third of people wake every single night. This isn't a fault that flips on during one bad evening. It's a slope every human slowly walks up, which is exactly why your grandparents were famous for being awake before the birds. They weren't failing at sleep. They were just further up the same hill you're already climbing. If it's this normal now, the real question is what it looked like before alarm clocks existed. A historian named Roger Eckert spent years digging through old diaries, court records, prayer books, and medical texts, and he kept hitting the same 2 words. First sleep, second sleep. More than 2,000 times, across a dozen languages and centuries of writing, ordinary people mentioned waking in the dead of night as casually as you'd mention lunch. The whole world used to sleep in 2 shifts, with a wakeful hour built right in between. You don't even have to take a historian's word for it. The proof is sitting in books you already know. Open Don Quixote, published in 1605, and you'll catch the characters take a first sleep and then get up. Cervantes dropped the midnight waking into a runaway bestseller as something every reader would simply recognize. No explanation needed. You can hold a 400-year-old book in your hands and watch people calmly do the exact thing you panic about. 200 years later, the same words were still right there on the page. Charles Dickens, writing Barnaby Rudge in 1840, gives us a character who started from his first sleeps. No explanation, no footnote, because every reader still knew exactly what a first sleep was. As recently as the 1840s, the 2-part night was just ordinary, everyday vocabulary, the kind of thing you'd never bother to define. And it wasn't only described, It was prescribed. A 16th century French doctor's manual advised couples that the best time to conceive a child was not at the end of a long, tiring day, but after the first sleeps. So with that, the 3 a.m. waking wasn't a problem to be fixed. It was a dependable window. The medicine of the era actually told you to use, on purpose, with a clear head. This was never just some quaint old European habit either. Well into the 20th century, anthropologists found the Tiv people of Nigeria still using the everyday terms first sleep and second sleep to carve up the night. Think about that reach. A living culture on a different continent kept the very same two-shift night and even gave it the very same name. This isn't a faded relic, it's a human default that surfaced wherever anyone bothered to look. Whole institutions were built on top of that wakeful hour. Under the rule of Saint Benedict, monks climbed out of bed around 2 a.m. after a first sleep for the night office of vigils and then often went back to bed afterward. Let that land! An entire religious order scheduled its clearest, holiest prayers for the exact hour you now lie awake dreading the ceiling. They didn't fear that hour, they reserved it for God. Outside the monastery walls, the city was wide awake too. Pre-industrial towns paid a night watch to walk the streets and call out the hour, 3 o'clock, and all's well, right through the dead of night. Nobody shouts that into an empty world. Somebody was meant to hear it. The 3 a.m. hour was public, social, staffed space, a shift somebody actually worked, not the silent void it feels like to you now. In that gap between sleeps, people didn't lie there spiraling. Their diaries record them praying, turning their dreams over, doing small chores by candlelight, making love, even slipping next door to visit a neighbor. Picture the warmth of it. The exact minutes you now burn, doom-scrolling and catastrophizing were, for generations, a quiet, private, almost tender window, a room of your own carved out of the dark. We didn't just lose sleep, we lost a place to be. And you don't have to trust the diaries, because modern science can switch that window back on, at will, in a lab. In the 1990s, sleep scientist Thomas Ware did something almost absurdly simple. He put people in 14 hours of darkness every night, for weeks, with no screens and no lamps. By the fourth week, almost everyone's sleep had quietly split in two. About 4 hours, then a calm, 2 to 3 hour wakeful gap, then another 4 hours. Strip away the artificial light, and the modern body falls straight back into the ancient pattern within weeks. It was never gone, it was only waiting. And inside that gap, his subjects felt something you would never expect. Ware found their bodies running a different chemistry. Cortisol low, prolactin high, the same calm, drifting, almost meditative state people now chase with apps and breathing exercises. So the panic you feel at 3 a.m. may not be the natural state of that hour at all. It may be a thin modern layer, painted over something that was actually built to feel peaceful. The dread isn't the hour, the dread is the paint. Step outside our own species, and the broken night looks even more normal. Across mammals, the single long block of sleep is the freak. The ancestral default is broken, scattered, polyphasic. Wild elephants run on about 2 hours a night. Giraffes steal sleep in standing, 1-minute bursts. Your shattered, interrupted night isn't a failure of biology, it's closer to the inheritance the rest of the animal world simply never gave up. We're not the broken sleepers, we're the strange ones who ever expected 8 hours straight. Which leaves one last question. If this is so natural, when exactly did it become wrong? It became wrong about 200 years ago. Gas lamps lit London in 1807. Factory clocks carved the day into shifts. The long, single 8-hour night was manufactured to fit the machines, not the humans sleeping inside them. The natural 8 hours you keep failing at is younger than the railway, so pull the camera all the way back and the whole picture inverts. You were never the broken one. You are the last watcher still awake to a clock the entire species used to keep, sitting up beside a fire that went out 2 centuries ago, doing exactly what you were built to do.